Right. Welcome, Raquel. I see that's from Yuma. Hope Bendel. If I said that wrong, I apologize. I see Tucson. Let's see. Glendale. West Valley, Glendale. Chandler. I think that's Armijo, Litchfield Park. Gilbert. Welcome. All right. I'm seeing more people as you're coming into the room. Feel free to state your name, what part of the state you're coming from. But welcome to our Arizona Schools Open House. Right. Welcome. Welcome. All right. Welcome, everyone. All right. Again, I will be in the chat box. We will be having a Q&A session later on in the webinar. This is being recorded, so if you're unable to stay for the entire time, we will be sending that out to registrants. But I'm going to give this microphone over to Jill so she can tell us a little bit about Stride and give us some housekeeping rules before we get started.
Great. Thank you all for joining us. I know that it's towards the end of the day for all of us, and so I do appreciate your time, and we will get to a lot of the fun questions that everyone wants to have answered towards the end of our webinar here. But we really wanted to have everyone come together and give you a feel for who our two schools in Arizona, so Arizona Virtual Academy as well as Insight School of Arizona, and kind of give you a feel of the differences and as well as the teacher experience there. Part of housekeeping rules, if we can, keep your questions to the end of the presentation so that we can get through talking through all of the key parts of the presentation, and then opening it up to our administrative staff that's here today, and we'll go from there. So to give you kind of an overview of Stride, I've seen some of your names on here look a little bit familiar to me, so you might have applied with us or have talked with us in the past, but Stride as a whole, we provide online education K through 12 and beyond. We provide in virtual experience, virtual education to students, whether they come to us for one reason or another. They come to us if they travel for a living and they're not able to attend a brick and mortar school. They need additional supports outside the traditional classroom. We have students that want to take extra courses that may not be offered in the mainstream homeschool district, and other various ways students come to us. So we're going to give you an idea of what it's like to be an online teacher. We have our staff here that's going to provide you some insight, but I wanted to kind of get into what it's like to be an elementary and middle school, as well as a high school teacher, and then also special education for those of you that are interested in that as well. Go ahead and share, or next slide. We have quite a few of our academic administrators from both Insight Arizona as well as Arizona Virtual here to talk with us. So they're listed here. So we have Stephanie Statler, who's our special education manager. We have Shannon Beal, who's one of our high school principals. Tamara Regner is also a middle school administrator with us. Haley is assistant academic administrator. Haley is middle school. And Sherry Ben, we have for elementary, is our academic administrator. Who did I miss? I don't think I missed anyone. Okay, next slide. Okay, little bit differences about Insight Arizona and Arizona Virtual. So I'm going to start with Arizona Virtual. As you can see, We kind of have broken these two schools up. We're one big happy family under the Arizona umbrella, if you will, but we do have two different schools. So Arizona Virtual Academy is K through 12. We do have elementary, middle, and high school. As you can see, there's quite a bit of a difference in regards to student enrollment. So we have a little over 6,000 students currently in Arizona Virtual. And then you can see, the elementary is, I think we have 80 to 85 teachers currently, middle school is 53, and then high school is 35. Some interesting facts. The mascot at AZVA is a bobcat. So I think is it Sherry that shared this, is that there is a teacher that has a camera on his property, and they catch bobcats almost daily. So it's pretty fun for, I would imagine, for watching that and having that as an experience for the students. Also, with the I would believe it's that the high school also runs an offer that's concurrent enrollment with the community college, the Rios Salado Community College. And then middle school, which I didn't know, this is an interesting fact, and this is what I love about doing these webinars, is that there's clubs. So just like in a traditional setting, you get to experience and get immersed in also not just a virtual education, but you get to get involved in all the different clubs as well. Insight Arizona, again, the student enrollment is a little bit smaller. It is 7th through 12th grades. They also offer middle school and high school courses. They have about 50 teachers in K through 7, 7 advisors, and 4 counselors. Interesting fact about the schools that they're trimester based, so that each student can earn additional credits for each of that school year. Oh, okay, sorry, I just saw the question pop up. Candidates also get support for if they need additional credits outside to be able to graduate, and also if they want to take extra courses to graduate early. So there's a lot of differences in between Insight School as well as AZVA. I'm going to now, go ahead, Drea, to the next slide. Highlight some of the traditional jobs. So if you want to go back, some of the jobs that we currently have open that we're looking for. A lot of you might have already seen our careers page and or have applied with us, but specifically, I'm going to point out that the majority of our positions currently open are going to be for special education, K through 12, elementary, middle school, all of the main core subjects, same thing with high school. So we'll get into how to apply after this. So I'm going to go ahead and flip it to our Sherry Ben, who is our elementary academic administrator, to kind of talk about a day in the life of an elementary teacher.
All right, thank you, Jill. And hi, everybody. I wish I could see you, but we're excited that you joined us today. I do work with our K-5 teachers and students and families. And as you can see, K-5 is really big. We really grew a lot as a result of the pandemic. We used to be about 1,800 students on average. During the pandemic, at the height of it, we actually had about 4,000 students in K-5, and we've kind of settled in around 2,800 right now. So our grade levels are huge, but our teachers work really closely together. We have a homeroom model in K-5 to where teachers have their own homeroom students that they're accountable for. They get to see the same students and families every day, so they really form close relationships with them. And in our environment, as you can imagine, because we have kindergarten through 5th grade, so we've got the young ones, we partner with families to create academic success for our students. So the connections that you build with the students is just as important to build those with families to ensure that students are successful in our environment. So our teachers do teach about 4 hours of live instruction each day in a platform called Neuro. And it's very similar to Zoom, but kind of a cross between Zoom and Blackboard Collaborate. If for those of you who knew the Blackboard, you know what that used to look like. It's like Zoom, but it has more teacher tools, if you will, and things to use with students. So it is visual. So you can really see those students every day, see those smiles. And the kinders get really excited to be on camera. So we've really enjoyed the visual platform in K-5, but majority of the instruction would take place during the morning hours. You know, usually from about 8:30 to noon would be live sessions. And then we do have a lunch at about 12 o'clock for students built in for everybody. And then they do come back from 1 to 2, do a little bit more instruction. And then the rest of the teacher's day is spent making phone calls, lesson planning, you know, doing all the clerical type duties that you might have, attending live IEP meetings, child study team meetings, professional development, things like that. So looking forward to hearing questions later on, but I will turn it over to the next principal.
Yeah, so Haley Tess is our middle school administrator. Haley, do you want to speak to the middle school?
Yeah, so you're going to hear a lot repeated. We're really close to the elementary school. We have 1,800 students about in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. Our teachers work closely together too. We have about 5 teachers on a math team or an ELA team just for one grade level. So they really have a lot of collaboration, sharing lesson plans, looking at data together and planning their instruction for the following week. Students do walk through an online lesson each day, and they come to class to get supported on that main standard of the day in their class. So teachers split their students into 2 different sessions and teach 2 different sessions for the whole group each day. Following that, after lunch, we have something called a Bobcat Den, where we're really focusing on some power standards and remediation sessions for students. Students get to rotate through each subject, so each quarter they go to a new Bobcat Den and get pushed on those standards by a different teacher. So we think that will be fun. Teachers also spend time doing one-on-ones, small group. We really like the idea of building connections with our students and meeting our students' needs. So depending on what your class needs, you may need extra one-on-ones or extra small group to support your students' learning. And then we also have the same phone calls, emails, lesson planning. We have our clubs, lots of different clubs to choose from. Each teacher joins a club or a committee for the year. Depending on how big the club is, they probably just meet once every other week. And if there's a lot of teachers in one club, it might be 1 meeting a month. But anything from cooking to performing arts to just a big range of things that interest our students. So that's a little bit about middle school.
Great, thanks, Haley. So I'm gonna Shannon, I'm gonna kick it off to Shannon and then to Tamara. So Shannon's at AZVA for high school, and then we'll introduce Tamara as for Insight High School. So go ahead, Shannon.
Perfect, thank you. Again, a lot of what Haley and Sherry mentioned before, it applies to us in high school, but we service students in the grades 9 through 12, and we have roughly right about 1,400 students. We try to provide them a well-rounded education, so we have all of our main core classes and lots of electives to choose from. They can take anything from criminal justice classes. We are starting a CTE program next year, so we'll have 4 different CTE pathways next year they can go into. We have fine arts, we have sociology, psychology, marketing classes, lots of fun classes so that we can meet the interest of all of our students in the high school. We do partner with Rio Salado College for concurrent enrollment. So our students have the ability to take college classes and earn college credit while they're still in high school, which puts them a step ahead when they are moving on to their next role into, once they graduate. We partner also with a couple of different programs like EVIT, which is a East Valley Institute of Technology. So they can go enter some of those CTE programs as well and get certifications that way. We also have clubs on campus, like Kaylee mentioned, for middle school. We have a very active student council who plans our activities, and we're excited that since, as the pandemic has shut us down and had made us have all virtual activities, we are excited about going back in person for some of those activities. We've got prom coming up and in-person graduation coming up, and they're super excited to be able to plan those. We also have National Honor Society with our high school as well. So lots of ways for the students to get involved. For our teachers, like was mentioned before, we really do hit in on relationship building. This being online, we need to build those relationships and get those students to be active learners in their classroom. So we do that through lots of means, emails, IMs, phone calls, really just getting them to come to live sessions and building those relationships with them. For our teachers typically, they're by department in high school. So we have our English department, all of our main departments, math, science, history, electives. And so they meet and work collaboratively with the other teachers in that department. And they plan those lessons and work together. We try to keep our teachers at having 1 to 2 preps instead of having lots, so they're not spread too thin. And they normally have another teacher that teaches that same subject as well. So they can work together and lesson plan together like that. They do teach, and like was mentioned earlier, we have our whole group live instruction where all the students are invited to come. We also do tutoring, reteaching, small group sessions, to help the students be successful in their classes. And, like mentioned before, our teachers also take part in staff meetings, professional development. We have our department meetings, and record keeping, data keeping, grading, all the things that, typical teachers have to do on a daily basis. So that's kind of AZV High School in a nutshell.
Right, thanks, Shannon. And then Tamara is going to talk about Insight Arizona High School.
Hello, welcome everybody. So I am the principal at Insight Academy. We are unique. We are a 7th through 12th grade school. And so our 7th and 8th grade students and teachers are on a semester schedule. And then our high school is based on a trimester schedule. So there's 12 weeks for each trimester. So students come to us in all different aspects of their life, and some want to come to Insight to graduate early. And so the trimesters are a way that they can take additional courses within one school year to get ahead, or maybe they come to us because they're credit deficient. So we can offer the opportunity for them to make up those credits that they may be lacking for any reasons that they come to us for high school. And so we also have a career prep program with graphic design and business and the medical field. We have many partnerships across the state, and our programs are just growing. It's honestly amazing. It's a highlight within Stride as well of how well our students are doing. They can take tests that qualify them for national competitions and also certifications, so they can graduate high school with a certification to go out into the work field. So we're very proud of our career prep program. And we also have clubs, and we have opportunities to meet with our students, teaching live classes every day, working to build those study skills and planning for the future and setting our students up for success.
Great, thanks, Tamara. And last but not least, we have special education. So Stephanie, would you like to speak to a special education teacher?
Sure, absolutely. So welcome everybody. Special education is exactly what the 4 principals mentioned, but you would have either resource, what we call direct instruction, or a self-contained class, depending on the area you were hired for, but that is our continuum of services. And the instruction, the number of hours that you would teach weekly looks similar in each setting of our continuum. So between 15 and 18 hours a week of instruction. And you may be asking yourself, well, what do I do, the other third of my day or my third of my week? And that is exactly what the principals were saying. Your lesson planning, you're doing data tracking. For a special ed teacher, you're also writing and holding IEPs and progress monitoring for those IEP goals. You're collaborating with your grade level team, both gen ed and special ed. Within our resource and direct instruction continuums, you do use the gen ed curriculum. So you're provided that curriculum. We have a fantastic lesson library within our schools themselves, and then also with our Stride partnership. We have a national lesson library where you can, look for a lesson that you're going to teach on fractions, pull that, and then modify it and tweak it to fit your student specific needs so that you're not reinventing the wheel. If you were to take a position within our special or our self-contained program, that is called SAILS, Support for Academics and Independent Life Skills. It is a program developed specifically for students with an intellectual disability, and they are taught grade level standards, but in a alternate curriculum called UNIQUE that is trellised back from the grade level standard to their current academic functioning. Our SAILS program, I think I said, is designed specifically for students with an intellectual disability, but we do have students with autism in there, a couple of students with a traumatic brain injury. As long as they have that ID component, they may qualify for that program. Jill, would you like me to talk now about the work time and the materials they receive as well?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay, so across our schools, all four, special ed included, as an employee, we would provide you with a Stride computer, a document camera, and then of course, access to all the curriculum that you would be teaching. We are working to ensure that you also get the hard copies of the curriculum you are teaching. So if there's a book study that you're doing with your class that they are assigned in our online curriculum, you also have that book to read along with them. And it's not something extra that you would have to purchase. It is a full-time position. All of our positions are full-time, 40-hour a week. Our hours are 8 to 5 with a 1-hour lunch. We do have some in-person time. Most prevalent right now is state testing. All of our teachers are out in the field right now at different locations around the state, testing our students in person. But we also have back to school professional development that will be in person this coming year at the Renaissance Hotel in Glendale. And we're hoping that we will be able to have school level specific in-person meetings at our Glendale home office as well. So a few times that you would be in person. Another question that was asked is, what do I do if I'm sick? How do I request time off? And so it's very similar to what you would experience in the brick and mortar. We have an HR portal that you would log into and request your time off. You would send an Outlook invite to your supervisors, letting them know that you're taking time off, and if it's a couple of hours that day or an entire day. And you would provide an alternate assignment for your students. So it may be a short recording reviewing information that you'll have learned previously, and then they have an assignment attached to that. Or if you're in our SAILS program, it may be a actual recording of a lesson that you taught previously, and you're reteaching it because you know your students need that reteach in there. So it looks similar across the departments and school levels. There might be a few tweaks in there, but that's really the big picture, is that you would request it in our HR portal and notify your administrator that you were going to be out. We acknowledge that sometimes emergency situations come up and you may not be able to complete that HR portal request and the Outlook invite, because one thing that happened with one of my staff this week, her mother-in-law was being rushed to the hospital. Well, we surely don't want you to take time and log that information into the computer right then. Just send us a quick chat or a quick IM and let us know, and we're going to wish you well. So very similar to what you would experience in the brick and mortar. All right, I think that's it, Jill. I hope I didn't talk too fast.
No, thank you. That was very informative. I'm gonna open it up now to the chat and see what questions our attendees have that we can answer. Okay, so I'm gonna, I guess, start here with, well, where should we start? Andrea, do you want to help with this?
Yeah, I was gonna say if they had specific, they can put it in the Q&A. There's a
Okay.
Q&A box
Great.
on your, because I'm not sure if you have it at the top of your screen or the bottom of your screen, but there's a button that says Q&A, and you can click on that to put in a question. That way we can view it in one spot. I did see a couple people put something in the chat box, but you can put your questions in Q&A as well.
Yeah, so while we wait for that, I see a chat from Tom about, and yes, we have spoken, Tom. He had a question about high school graduation rate. What is that? And then, you know, do we offer philosophy, film studies, forensics, CSI, American Lit courses? Does someone want to talk? Does either Tamara or Shannon want to talk about high school?
I can talk for AZV High School. So we have our forensic science class that we offer, and we do have American Lit courses. That is our junior level English class. We do not do philosophy or film studies at this time, and our graduation rate is right around 67% and growing. So it's a focus for our school, just like most high schools, to making sure we get those kids across the finish line.
Great. Tamara, did you want to add anything?
I would echo Shannon of the courses offered. We do not have philosophy or film studies at this time. And again, our graduation rate is a little lower than AZVA's. We are an alternative school, so we are making progress. We're about 55%.
Great. And then I see a chat from previous, before we get into the Q&A, is April had asked if there's the adult education opportunities will be discussed today. April, I'll reach back out to you and talk to you about this after the session, but that's a good question. And I'd like to speak to you a little bit more about that. Okay, so we'll get into the Q&A.
I had someone ask a question. Do you hire substitute teachers? And I saw Tamara. If you want to answer live, you can.
I was going to type it and then I'll just jump on. So there are times where we do post for substitute teachers. So that would be something that we would open a requisition for. Jill, you can correct me if I'm wrong, if anything. But then we like to have a pool of subs. So if we need to hire substitutes, we do. At Insight, and I believe it might be district wide, but we don't necessarily need a substitute for like a 1 day, 2 day time off, because we don't have a 4-wall classroom that an adult needs to be in with the students. It's more of like what Ms. Dallard had mentioned, of giving a video, walking the students through what to do while I'm out of the office type thing. We would like to have substitutes for a longer period of time if we don't have a teacher that is able to teach that course for a solid length of time.
Right.
Sorry, I was on mute.
Oh,
Go ahead, Jill.
No, go ahead.
There was someone asking, is there a particular teaching pedagogy that Stride follows? And I believe they're talking about our curriculum.
Does anyone want to speak to that? Sherry, do you want to speak to the curriculum?
Yeah, so our students, they do have online lessons. So when they log in each day, they have a lesson that populates for them that they're going to complete in English language arts, math, science, history, and all of that. And our teachers, what they teach goes along with that. So if you had a student, we do testing, of course, to benchmark testing on our students. So I try to identify those students who need extra support. And we have students of all different levels. So we have students who very much don't need a whole lot of teacher support. They're pretty independent, and they may check in with their teachers, come to a few classes, and then we have other students who need a tremendous amount of teacher support, and they come to small group classes, homeroom classes, possibly one-on-one classes. So we have a variety of students and different reasons they come to us and different needs that they have. But as far as live instruction goes, we're very much trying to make it not lecture-based. We want it to be student-centered, student leaders taking a lead in classrooms, lots of group work, working in breakout rooms. So we do try and keep the teacher-directed instruction part shorter so that we can get the students engaged and in doing hands-on thing. Especially, you can imagine with our younger students too, their attention span is pretty little. So I know, like our kinder, first grade, they'll bring in music and movement, and they have whiteboards they're holding up, and you should see they have like a whole teacher calendar and stuff like that. So everything you would see in like the traditional classroom in a elementary classroom, the calendar very much centered around that, we have in the virtual world too. It's kind of behind the teachers there.
Great.
And I would like to add, Jill, if I can, on that.
Please.
The exception to that Sherry was talking about is our self-contained students. They will not pass if they do not attend and participate in the daily classes, because they are our most intensive needs students, and they do need that live, highly qualified teacher teaching them on a daily basis in all subject areas. So that would be the only exception to that rule that Sherry spoke to.
Right. Perfect. Do we hire outside of Arizona? Well, this is, as of right now, we currently do not. We must live in the state of Arizona and hold an Arizona state certification in order to be a candidate for one of our opportunities. In the event any of that changes, we do reach out to the candidates that have applied with us and letting them know that we have potentially opened up that the state requirements, but as of right now, you would need to reside in the state and hold an Arizona state certification for very specific also to the classes that you teach. So if you hold an elementary certification, obviously you would you'd be eligible to teach an elementary course or elementary class. But then when you get into middle school and high school, you would have to be certified in the subject in which you're teaching. So example would be middle school math. You would need to have that middle school math endorsement. And sometimes people ask what an endorsement necessarily is, and it can vary from state to state. It's where you're highly qualified to teach your subject matter expert, and the state of Arizona recognizes that and adds that to your state certification. Any other questions? I think there were some questions we saw answered. I hope everyone's reading these. Was there middle school attendance rate? Oh, you spent 90%. Okay, Tamara. Yeah, it sounds like, are there any other questions? Any other comments that anyone wants to add?
Someone asked, what if you're moving to Arizona in the near future? I currently teach high school social studies in New York City.
That's a great question. Currently, you would have to live in the state of Arizona and hold the Arizona certification. My recommendation for those of you that might live outside the state of Arizona is to, keep an eye on what openings that we have open. And then when you have relocated to the state of Arizona, to reach out to me to apply at that point in time. I'm more than happy to go through our openings and what opportunities we might have at that point in time, but you would need to reside in that state. One thing to note too is if you do live in other states that are still interested in getting involved with Stride and becoming a teacher, look at our careers page. There's a lot of opportunities that don't have state residency requirements that might be an opportunity for you to get your foot in the door, if you will. And then at that point in time, when you're ready to relocate to Arizona, you can look at what opportunities are open at that point in time. Any other questions? Any other comments our leaders want to add? As Stephanie,
Jill,
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, Adele asked the question. I think she missed our comments, mine and Sherry's, about the student completing all the online curriculum without attending any of the live classes, and can they pass the grade level? And that truly depends on the level of needs of the student. There are a certain population of students that absolutely can do that and pass the grade level, but there are others with more intensive needs that must attend all live classes, and it shows up on their schedule as a required class.
Yeah, and I would want to add to that too, that the testing that we do, so the benchmark testing that we do, would be required for them to log in for that. So you wouldn't have students that you've never seen all year. At some point, they would be logging in to at least do testing with you if they weren't required to attend sessions.
Great. One thing I get questions a lot from candidates is, does Stride issue you, or does the school issue you a laptop? And as part of what Stephanie had said earlier, kind of, we provide you with the curriculum and the tools and everything that you need. We also do provide you with a laptop. So you will have access to that as well. Great, everyone's still asking salary questions. That's always a good question. I am happy to take that question offline, and we can discuss after. Amanda, if you'll have, I'll get your contact information and reach out to you directly, and we can talk around what that compensation looks like. One thing to note, I will tell you, since compensation questions do get brought up a lot, is, we don't follow a traditional step schedule that you would maybe at a school district. So we don't, it's not the same type of structure. But again, compensation questions, I'm more than happy to talk to you outside of this group session. Oh,
Just want to ask about a student ratio.
Yeah.
I can jump on and answer for AZVA High School. So it really depends. Our core subject teachers have less students than, say, our electives teachers. It also depends on the number of preps you have, but we typically are about one teacher to about 200 students is what it roughly is for high school.
And Tamara, do you know what do you know offhand what it is for Insight?
Yes, so our, as Sherry or Shannon had mentioned, sorry, our math and English, we try to keep about 150 students. The other content areas up to 180. So that's how many students would be in the course, and then we break those into smaller groups for the actual live lessons. And then I was typing and I got nervous and I just hit the submit because I was going to start talking. I was answering a question about the live schedule. So each administration sets the live schedule for teaching for each of our schools, and that way we can ensure that students' schedules are not overlapped. So we make sure that if a student looks at their daily schedule, that they know that they can go to math, they have math at this time, English at this time, history at this time, and it's not kind of like, oh, when am I supposed to, which class should I choose today? So it is all broken down and laid out for our teachers and students.
Right.
And for AZVA Middle School, our class sizes for math and ELA are somewhere around 120 students per teacher, and for history and science is closer to 180 or 200. But then those are broken apart for sessions.
Great. Any other questions? And Tom, I will reach out to you after this session as well. How long are our class periods?
For AZVA Middle School, we have an hour class period, but the first half an hour is used for instruction and the second half an hour is used for smaller groups, help lab time, working time for students to get their quiz done during the class session.
Oh, there's a good question about grading. Is it computer graded or do teachers design the
That's a great
assignment?
question. So there are some computer graded assignments. Quizzes might be if they're multiple choice or things like that. Those are computer graded. There are also teacher assigned assignments, writing assignments, PowerPoints, projects, science labs. So there's a wide variety of both. And the instruction piece is designed by the teachers. So Stride is the curriculum. I kind of explain it to new staff as here's the textbook, it's all online, and then you use that content and your expertise to build the live lessons.
Right. And Stephanie, what's the caseload for special education?
So it depends on the school level that you would be assigned to. We try to keep K-5 a little lower because of the intensive needs of those students. Typically needs tend to be a little higher than, say, a high school student. On average, I would say between 20 to 30 students. But it could be higher depending on, again, the school level and the level of where you are teaching within the continuum of service.
Does anyone know about capturing kids' hearts?
So I was Googling it real quick,
Okay.
to be honest, because
Yeah.
I wanted to make sure I could. So I wouldn't say that we like, yes, use that curriculum, but the idea that it looks like behind it is definitely where our heart is. Insight is a Kids at Hope school. So we have had training and professional development with Kids at Hope, but just making sure we address all students in a positive manner. We know all students are capable of success, and it's our job to reach and find what their success looks like because it's different for everyone. So I have to do some more research to answer that, but I'm not sure if anyone else has more insight into that.
I think she was saying it has lesson plan models she was putting in the chat. The person who asked, just apparently that's what capturing kids' hearts is.
Fantastic. We do across the district use 7 mindsets as a curriculum. So that is some what we use to guide some of that SEL component. And that does come with lesson plans that our teachers can take and then either implement just like that, or they probably put a little spin on it too.
And I would add that in special education, for those students that have social emotional learning goals, we utilize the second step SEL program for those classes as well.
All right. Oh, how often do you meet in person? We get this question quite a bit, so this is a good time to speak. Haley, can you speak to this one?
How often do we meet students in person? So pre-COVID, we used to have a lot of field trips and events besides just testing. I mean, we used to go to the zoo and it was so much fun. It was like, meet your language arts teacher over by the giraffes and then meet your math teachers over by, whatever. And that was like the funnest event for me. But we would have back to school, like in-person events with students and things like that. So hopefully we'll get back to that one day. But in-person events now are really just the testing events. Does anyone else have anything else that they do in person?
Our Stride Career Prep students are out in the community a lot because the curriculum is based that they need hands-on experience. So we've been able to start getting our students out into the community for their medical assisting hours and graphic design hours and reaching out to businesses. So those that are on the business path, which has been great because we've kind of slowly started getting back out into the community. So we know that in the near future, we can start planning those as well. So like Haley said, the zoo event is always fun. Like Renaissance fair, or I think someone did butterfly. Sherry, didn't you guys do the butterfly experience? So the focus is to try to get events around the state of Arizona, because we know if we hold something in Tucson, you know, our friends out in Havasu, that's a long drive. So trying to make sure we spread out through the state is important to us as well when we plan those events. Oh yeah, see, Raquel said she noticed.
Yeah. Question about teacher shortage and opening the boundaries for out-of-state teachers. It's a good question. And yes, there is a teacher shortage. At this time, we don't have an answer to when and if we would open that boundary up. It's really just going to be dependent on a lot of things. And so while I would say there's a possibility, I would also be hesitant to say that. So it's stay in contact with me. If you want to provide, if you want to provide your information to me, I'd be more than happy to, have one-off conversations with you about this. But again, look at our careers page for those positions that might be open that don't have a state residency requirement, so that you can also look at what opportunities might be available for you based on where you currently reside.
I was just gonna jump in to say, and I'll put it in the chat. If you've registered for this event, we'll be sending your information to Jill, so she'll have the registrants and their contact information. I just didn't want people to feel like they had to put all their information in the chat box, but we'll send that. I'll be sending that over to her. Just wanted to make mention of that.
Yeah. Okay. Oh. Can you lose your position because of lower enrollment? And is it based on seniority? Oh, that's a good question. Do we have any, Sherry, do you want to speak to this?
Yeah. So I've been principal for quite a while now, and I have never had to let a teacher go due to lower enrollment. What we do is we monitor our numbers all the time, because we currently have enrollment open, well, at least, and I'm speaking just on behalf of K-5. I know high school is different, but we keep enrollment open until pretty much like spring break. And so our population can go up and down. And so part of my job is to constantly monitor, are we currently staffed perfectly? Are we overstaffed? And we do lose teachers throughout the year for, various reasons. We've had teachers that have had to move, or medical reasons. They leave, in the middle of the year. And so it's worked out to where I've never had to, have somebody not return or have to lay someone off because of enrollments. So we just have to monitor that carefully on our side so that doesn't happen. So yeah, I don't know if anyone else wants to speak on behalf of their departments.
Tamara, do you want to chime in at all?
It would be the same as Sherry.
Yeah.
Yeah. And even if there was, for some reason, hopefully you guys can see that we work so collectively together. So it could be like, hey, I have this amazing teacher. Is there a position, available here? So that could be an option, but I'm just thinking outside the box, because we haven't really had to worry about that. We are on the more conservative side of not over hiring, because we don't want to have that situation. So like Sherry said, there's a whole financial numbers looking at things to make sure that we keep our staffing at the accurate number.
Yeah, and to Sherry's point too, enrollment consistently, stays open until spring break, and it, will peak and come off, and then it'll peak again. So I feel like we've never really had that. I mean, I've been with the company for 10 years and I've never seen anything happen at AZBA or Insight. So, and we always, if something was to happen, we would typically find a home for them. Any other questions? Okay. Well, I want to thank everyone so much for your time, your consideration, our administrators for answering all these wonderful questions and providing insight on more about our schools. Oh, one last question. Sherry's typing an answer. So again, you're going to get our contact information. So if you guys do have questions outside of this that you want to send over to us in general, we're happy to answer those. I know there's a few people that I wrote names down that I'll get back in touch with you. But feel free to look at our careers page. All of our opportunities are listed there. And then we will be in contact with all of you if you have additional questions. Thank you everyone for your time. I hope everyone has a good evening.